Hi, my name is Sire Jackson, and this is Authentic Dialogue, the show where you and I have authentic chat about conversations you and I would rather avoid. Welcome. One of the things that we need to have in life when going through our transitions is, you hear the expression, grow a thick skin, grow a thick skin. It is true that we need to build a thick skin, but I want to use that thick skin word as we would in science. It's called insulation. When a parasite is moving from its point of entry, let's say the point of entry in the body was a foot, and the point where it will finally thrive is, say, the kidneys or the small intestines. It begins its journey as a juvenile, pretty fragile, very attackable. But then as it keeps growing thicker and thicker either, or it then eventually moves to a place where it plays to its advantage. So, for instance, in your body, there are spaces we call immune privileged zones. So immune privileged zones are areas within your body where the immune activity is lower than the average rest of the body. So places like your brain, your eyes, spaces like that are called immune privileged zones. So in order to survive, parasites will either develop stronger insulation or they will move to immune privileged zones. And this helps them in their transition and subsequently in thriving during their transitions. So they don't remain forever with the fragility they had as juveniles. They, as time goes by, either locate zones where they can be able to thrive or they build a thick skin around themselves. As we continue with our dialogue that has been going on now for some time about thinking like a parasite, and I would encourage you to watch the previous videos. They'll have a lot of material there that should be of help and interest you and will help you make a lot more sense on this particular one too. We today look at the letter I. So we've been looking at the letter parasite from P. Today we are at letter I. Letter I therefore means or reminds us the need to build some insulation around us so that we can be able to thrive. The need for insulation is informed by two realities about transitions. Reality number one is we are navigating an environment where not everything in it is friendly to us. And we can't always be people who react to the environment. We need to be people who respond to that environment. Reacting means we wait for stimulus and then we then see how we can act. But responding means we've taken time to think and even at times to preempt what would be coming and prepare accordingly. So reality of the need to build insulation is informed by the understanding that the environments for our transition will not be sitting to align to the best of our advantage. And therefore we need to be people who are proactively placing ourselves in a advantage or vantage position to be able to respond rather than to react. That's reality number one. Then reality number two about insulation is the idea that we need to position ourselves. Insulation is needed to position ourselves in those environments in the way we can best be able to maximize the reality of the environments we are in during our transitions. And insulation provides us the requisite cover so that we can maximally leverage our environments. And definitely we need to be in the environments that provide us nutrition. We need to be in the environments that provide us the spaces where we are best able to contribute. We need to be able to place ourselves in environments where we are able to maximize our growth. So three things we need to always get in our environments is nutrition, contribution, and growth. And insulation allows us to be able to have some playroom or wiggle room that can be able to get us. Now, what I'm using here as a metaphor for insulation is not necessarily more clothes or cabling around us, but it is being able to put around ourselves expertise or skills or people or certain advantages, whether they are from learning or from training or from networking, that allows us to function within our environments, that allows our environments, rather than becoming spaces that destroy or necessarily attack us, become environments where we can be able to thrive. So insulation, that's a concept around insulation, the concept of surrounding ourselves with people, with skills, with the advantages that allow us to then shape our environments to become spaces where we can thrive, where we get our nutrition, where we can grow, where we can be able to contribute. Now, how do we go about creating this insulation practically? I want to remind you the 3 C's, 3-letter C's, about going about to create insulation during our transition process. So insulations that get us to our proper use of or the maximizing of our environments, insulation is gotten 3 ways. Number 1 is we either conquer it. So we either get insulation through conquering. And conquering means, how do I use my skills or my abilities or my networks or my wherewithal to enter into an already existing niche or space and be able to conquer it? How do I play to my skills and my advantage and get into an environment and be able to change it for the better of myself? Kenya has a company that has done this quite well. It's called Safaricom. What Safaricom have done is they were able to enter the money transfer market, and by loading 2 things. One is a local network of retailers to become money transfer agents, and then 2, leverage their mobile network. Bringing these 2 things together, they've been able to create a best-in-world example about money transfer that has now become something phenomenal. It's become a payment solution. It's become a banking solution. But what have they simply been able to do? They've been able to enter a market space, and really by playing to their strengths, to their skills, they've been able to conquer. And by so doing, Kenyans may complain at times about the voice quality or any other qualities of Safaricom, but Safaricom have in a sense been able to insulate themselves in this space and are continuously able to thrive and function in an otherwise extremely competitive telco market. So number one way of creating insulation within your transition space is by conquering it. Number 2 is collaborating. Now, you may be the smartest cookie in town, but we is always smarter than I. And at times, in order for us to create the sort of insulation we need to thrive within our transitions, we need to learn to collaborate with others. And these others may even at times be competitors. Still staying with the theme of telcos and digital, the cost of getting sea cable or network cables through the sea that give us high-speed internet is an extremely expensive undertaking. So many who would otherwise be competitors have seen the wisdom of coming together and getting sea cables done and brought to their locality. And once that has been able to be achieved, then they can now begin competing, whether it's on product quality or on product packages and stuff like that. But they do get the sense that just competing among themselves without getting the sea cable to their land may not be of help to them. And so collaborating has helped them be able to create insulation, to be able to create new niches where they can be able to thrive. And often that's a case. In order for us to be able to thrive through our transitions, rather than needlessly competing, we need to begin seeing people who we can collaborate with. We need to see people who would have been otherwise perceived as competitors and begin seeing how well can we begin collaborating with them. If I am selling cakes and I want to grow my bakery, I need to begin seeing the person who is selling the other person who is selling transport services, not as competition, but as somebody whom I can collaborate with. So number 1 is conquering. Number 2 is collaborating. And number 3 is by co-creating or reimagining a space. So some spaces that exist now just need to be reimagined in order for them to provide for us insulation spaces. They've been used one way for a long time. But in order for them to become spaces we can thrive within, we need to begin reimagining using the same spaces in another way. In many developing countries now, we are thinking about the mobile handset not just as a tool for communication, but has become the tool for banking for quite a number of communities. And so reimagining that space has allowed banks or financial institutions to insulate themselves from the vagaries of financial cycles within the world, and by reimagining like a tool like the mobile phone into a bank or banking the unbanked, it has allowed themselves to at least insulate themselves from these particular changes. And the same way banks are able to think, similar thinking can be applied to individual transitions as they can be done to mega transitions, that rethinking a space and being able to repurpose it for your agenda could be a way to be able to create insulation for yourself during transition. So today we're looking at insulation, the letter I, in thinking like a parasite, and how the steps we can be able to go about to do it, and which is either by collaborating, by creating, or by co-creating or imagining a space anew. I'm interested to know how you are insulating or thinking of yourself to insulate yourself in whichever transition you're going. Your comments will be very helpful for me and for others who are going through these experiences. So go down to the comments and do share with us. But also while you're at it, subscribe and do stay with this conversation. And until next time, think like a parasite.